Hi, this is Ricky Smith. I wanted to talk to you today about maintenance planning and scheduling best practices. This is session one. So let's talk about definitions. Without definitions, we have everyone's opinion. The best way to align people, in their thinking and what they view things are, like planning and scheduling, we need to have definitions. So maintenance, to maintain, keep, preserve, protect from degradation. Maintenance plan work that's gone through a formal planning process to identify labor, materials, tools, and safety requirements. This information is assembled into a job plan package and communicated to craft workers prior to the start of work. Maintenance scheduling. Maintenance scheduling refers to the timing of planned work, when the work should be done, who should perform it. It offers details when and who. Scheduling meant to schedule the maximum amount of work with the available resources. Scheduling according to the highest priority work orders. So what's the objective of planning and scheduling? To optimize maintenance resources, the labor, materials, and parts. To optimize asset reliability through minimize unscheduled and scheduled downtime. And to optimize costs. We look at costs, and typically the standard is replacement asset value. So if we look at this, the metric is maintenance costs, the percent of replacement asset value. Typical is 3.5 to 9%. World class is 2 to 3%. A lot of difference in cost. And then maintenance material costs, the same thing, 1 to 3.5%, and world class is 0.25 to 0.75%. So some best practices benchmark: schedule compliance should be 80 to 90%. Breaks to the schedule should be minimal. Percent of planned work, 90%. PM execution is 15% of labor hours. The results from PM execution is 15% of labor hours. PDM execution is 15% of labor hours. Then the results from PDM is 35% of labor hours. Typical wrench time, as you see in most companies, 18 to 30%. World class, 55% plus. A lot of difference. Maintenance costs we talked about, reactive saves 3.5 to 9% RAV. World class maintenance, 2 to 3% RAV. So work order requirements, they're not an option, okay? For proactive planning and scheduling, you have to have work orders, and these must be repeatable procedures. So work order is critical to ensure a planned scheduled work order is repeatable. What work is to be done? What work was done? Step-by-step instructions. Actions required of the work. Maintenance KPIs are accurate. And the percentage of maintenance work assigned to reactive work, proactive work, project work. So how does planning and scheduling impact wrench time? Well, first, maintenance planning organizes the work through ensuring the following is available when the job is started or scheduled. We need to have the right parts and the right quantity ready. The right number of trades available with the right skill set. Could be, an example, 2 maintenance techs, 1 electrician for the job. Repeatable procedure with step-by-step instructions. Why? To reduce human-induced failures. As humans, we are just unbelievably, carry human-induced failures. And people tell me all the time, say, well, we don't have human-induced failures. Well, and kind of my reply to that is, have you ever walked out to your car, got in the car, and left your car keys inside? We have human-induced failures, okay? The equipment is available to be worked on as agreed with production on a specific day and time. Cooled down, cleaned up, ready to go. Maintenance work is executed with plus or minus 10% of the time scheduled. Maintenance rework is minimized. So these are the 6 steps to make planning and scheduling more effective. Step 1, gain knowledge of known best maintenance planning and scheduling practices through formal training. Maintenance planners and maintenance supervisors should be trained in formal planning and scheduling. Assess the planning and scheduling process. What's the gap? Where are we? Where do we need to be? Create maintenance process maps. Without a process maps, everybody's doing their own thing. Define roles and responsibilities is number 5 in maintenance planning and scheduling. And then create a maintenance KPI dashboard. Without measuring it, we don't know how well we're doing. So step 1, gain knowledge of planning and scheduling through formal training. So the source of the best maintenance planning and scheduling classes, live, you know, in person or virtual. That's the preferred. Webinars. Webinars are good because you can always pick up something. Toolbox talk or single point lessons that I've created over time is another way to do it. Maintenance planners and maintenance supervisors should be trained in planning and scheduling. So maintenance planners, maintenance supervisors make the most impact on increasing wrench time, thus need to have the same knowledge in planning and scheduling. One team. An example of objectives, the objective of planning and scheduling workshop, define known best maintenance and reliability practices, impacts, planning and scheduling processes. Define the proactive maintenance process. Attain the ability to execute proactive maintenance planning and scheduling. Describe the objective, mission, and attributes of proactive planning and scheduling. And then plan and schedule through numerous hands-on exercises. If you go to training, if you don't have hands-on exercises, it's hard to, how do we say it, that you can, it sits in your mind and you can recall it easy, because hands-on is much better than just listening to someone talk. Learn how to measure an organization's current wrench time and define methods to optimize maintenance wrench time. Create a proactive maintenance planning and scheduling workflow model which impacts the wrench time. Create leading and lagging KPIs for planning and scheduling. Define how to transition from current state to a more proactive planning and scheduling process. And define how to measure and manage maintenance backlog. And then next, learn how to implement and manage a proactive kitting process. Gain the first steps and how to manage change. You got to understand how to manage change. If you haven't used a formal planning and scheduling best practices process, then it's probably you need to think about how we're going to manage this change, because change is not easy. Create a master plan with timeline for proactive maintenance planning, scheduling, implementation, and optimization. Number 3, assess your planning and scheduling process. So I'm just going to ask these questions, okay? It's yes or no. All right. So maintenance planning and scheduling questions. Does most of the maintenance work scheduled have pre-planned job packages developed for them? All specifications, procedures, parts, labor, etc. Yes or no. Does the planner use the maintenance staff to assist in the development of pre-planned job packages? When is a planner scheduler or planner performing their day-to-day job, you know, so next is create a proactive process maps. You know, if you have process maps, great job. Starting off with a good way. Step 1, assemble a cross-functional team. Then, you know, educate stakeholders in this cross-functional team of proactive maintenance. Identify basic flowchart diagrams. Identify and sequence process steps, step by step. Identify roles and responsibilities. So number 6 is defining roles and responsibilities in maintenance planning and scheduling. Very critical so people know how they play this game called planning and scheduling. I'm using an example on this one, the maintenance scheduling, using a RACI chart. RACI defines roles and responsibilities. Typically the way it works, R is responsible. The doer, you look down to the bottom, you can see it in blue. Okay, the doer. There could be more than one person. Accountable, buck stops here, can only be one person per task. Consulted, two-way communication. Informed, one-way communication, kept in the loop. So we identify the stakeholder positions. We identify the tasks for the maintenance scheduling process. You know, manage asset criticality, identify ready to schedule work orders, and so on. And then identify who's responsible, who's accountable, and who's consulted, and who's informed. You know, so for each one of these tasks, let's say on identify ready to schedule work orders, the A, every line has to have one A, no more. Only can be one A. Only one person can be accountable. The buck stops here. So identify ready to schedule work orders. The maintenance manager, the buck stops here. That's who's gonna get in trouble if the schedule if we don't have the ready to schedule work orders. Responsible to doer would be the maintenance planner, and it could be the production manager also be involved in it. Identify skill requirements and availability. You got to make sure we got the right people for the right job, you know. And then manage the scheduling meeting. The scheduling meeting, the accountability against the maintenance manager does not. Remember, I said the R is the doer. So the only doer on that line is the maintenance planner. The planner manages the scheduling meeting. So step 7 is creating a maintenance KPI dashboard. Have to know what you're doing in order to be effective. Okay, so identify the steps in the maintenance process. You know, could be total backlog. We want to manage total backlog. We got ready backlog. We got plan work. We got schedule compliance. We got rework. We got emergency labor hours. And we got maintenance costs as a percentage of replacement asset value. So each step in this process has to do with backlog, ready backlog, total backlog, ready backlog, plan work, schedule compliance, rework, emergency labor hours, and maintenance costs as a percentage of replacement asset value. Why? On that last one, because we got to manage the money. Identify a metric, KPIs for each step, like I've shown you here. Educate everyone how each metric is critical to success for planning and scheduling. And post a dashboard where everyone can see the score. It needs to be where people can see it. On my planners, on my maintenance supervisors, on my production supervisors, we should see a dashboard shows up on their screensaver. Looks something like this. Now warning, KPI data comes from the work order closeout data. So the data must be accurate and updated. Who's the person that closes it out in the CMMS is the maintenance planner. Now, a lot of people say, well, the maintenance planner doesn't know the work. Yes, he does know the work, or she knows the work. But what happens is the maintenance supervisor should review it and say, okay, it looks good. And then the maintenance planner is the last one to look at it. They're the only one sitting calm at the end of the day. Think about it. I've been a maintenance supervisor. At the end of the day, things go crazy sometimes. You don't have time to close the work orders out correctly. You may close them out, but they may not be correct. So just my thoughts. So questions, comments, we offer, on-site and virtual training via Zoom. On-site is only in the U.S. right now. And questions, comments, contact me, Ricky Smith at rsmith@worldclassmaintenance.org or at worldclassmaintenance.org. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed this program today. There's many more coming.